Good evening, it's 6:30 on the button. Welcome. This is the regular meeting of March 28th. No, today's May 5th, 2025. I want to begin by welcoming our two newest members, Mr. Gary and Ms. Haggerty. Welcome to the select board.
Thank you.
I'm gonna not resign. See you later. You guys are on your own. I'm gonna begin by calling it to order. We're gonna go to item number 2, which is discussion approval of the annual town meeting articles. We have a list, a long list on page 2, being Article 1 to Article 39. I've been told it was 20 on the consent agenda. Is it really 20?
Well,
We could be out of here in an hour.
that would be nice.
If you want to take a peek, the only one that I know that came to us just before is Article 37, which we probably won't get to tonight. And is it on the consent agenda?
No.
All right, so if I don't, we'll get to that tonight. Any of any concern to anybody? This is the most uncontentious town meeting. It's like there's nothing.
Yeah.
Now June might be a little bit different, but as far as the annual, should be fine.
Take what you can get.
That's it.
Mr. Chair, I think the only concern that I think, is there an amendment in the packet for the ADUs that was submitted?
Yes, so an amendment was submitted for the ADUs one to, right now, the language says that the lease term has to be 12 months. The amendment revises that down to a minimum lease term of 1 month. So that is the one amendment that we're aware of that's been submitted in writing so far.
Who submitted it? Where'd that come from? Planning board? Where'd the amendment come from?
Matt Morong submitted it. The planning board has it, warrant committee has it. They're both aware of it, so they can respond to it. And it does speak to an issue that the municipal law unit at the Attorney General's office has identified as a potential issue, that a 12-month term might be an unreasonable regulation on an ADU.
I never heard of one.
I think the idea that I think, and Nick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that basically if you have a minimum of a month and you avoid the Airbnb Verbo crowd. But if you have like a family who has a kid at Boston Children's, or you have a teacher who maybe just wants an apartment for, September to May or something like that, it gives people a little bit more flexibility and doesn't lock them into the year.
Does it require a month, or can they still go 10 at a will, like 30 days?
I think the minimum would be a month.
Okay.
So if you have an ADU, you could only rent it out for a month or longer.
So this gets you out of the going back to the Airbnb. This gets you out of
Correct.
weekends,
Exactly.
but okay.
But it doesn't treat it any differently than like a apartment owner. Yeah.
No, although an apartment owner can go 10 at a will, they don't have to.
Yes,
There are many that
exactly.
don't, like I owned a 2-family for years.
So that was one of the reasons why the AG's office was concerned about the year period.
So who's speaking to this planning board?
It'll be up to the planning board. Well, the amendment would be made presumably, and then the planning board will offer their opinion before it goes back to the full body.
And what,
That's Article 38 for ADUs.
is that on the consent?
No.
Okay, so probably. So you're bringing that up because you want us to be aware that this.
I just wanted it to be aware for for us for voting on. I'll vote for the ADU plan. I hope that the amendment passes because I think it'll give folks a little bit more flexibility.
You want to wait till tomorrow night just to see if anything else, or do you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was hoping we get out of after the meeting tomorrow night.
He always dreams.
Oh, we could vote on the floor. We could vote just before.
We could vote on the floor yeah.
So there are 3 ways we vote sometimes. The board will vote before we ever get here. Sometimes we vote here, and sometimes you vote on the floor as you listen to discussion or take back and forth, or amendments happen and go away and, do we have an opinion? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I'm fine with that one, but we can wait till.
I think just wait till it's on the floor.
Okay.
We can see what's going on.
Plus, the biggest question always out there is the Airbnb, and as long as it deals with Airbnb,
I think that's right.
yeah.
And I just want to, and just because this is building off of an issue
Right.
that John's aware of related to Airbnb is, right now, the way we enforce no Airbnb in Milton is by, notifying them that they can't operate an Airbnb because we prohibit home occupations, and we don't prohibit home occupation, but that's not a allowed home occupation. And we usually, or the department has used no more than 3 unrelated persons living together, so we don't have a good. If we want to prohibit Airbnbs and those short-term rentals, we don't have good zoning language that does that today. So, I just wanted to flag that since it was coming up as part of the conversation.
That's not something we can.
No, it's, I mean, the planning board could submit a new article to address that in the future. I just want to flag it in case as the conversation evolves at town meeting about the 30-day thing. We kind of prohibit Airbnbs, or we kind of don't, but we've been forced, when we become aware of them, we do have live notices and letters to correct. So I just wanted to flag that as a potential item.
So that would probably be a good future article for the planning board to submit, and it probably you'd want to set the same standard on all properties.
Yeah,
right.
I mean.
Because we've been
just makes it
dealing, we've been dealing with a complaint on my street. where
Yeah.
They actually had a bus pull up and people get off the bus. Yeah.
The other article, Mr. Chair, if I could mention, is capital budget. So we received some rumors and of a potential appropriation or amendment to the capital budget appropriation on the floor to increase the budget to fund the Council on Aging passenger bus that was not funded by the grant application we had submitted to the state. We've worked with Deborah Felton and Mike Zulus on that over the weekend. I got an email from Deborah a few hours ago saying she doesn't intend to offer it, so I don't expect it to go forward. But just 2 points on that. The first being that council reviewed it and determined that an appropriation that wasn't evaluated by the capital committee, like this one wasn't, can't move forward. And an unexpected appropriation more than $500 that hasn't been evaluated by any board or committee can't be made at town meeting. So there's 2 kind of procedural legal loopholes first. And then I think as a policy matter, it's not something that we've evaluated. It's not something we considered. It's not something the Council on Aging submitted as part of their capital budget. So then to start modifying that capital budget on the floor of town meeting, I think could get a little bit procedurally and precedentially tricky. And then I spoke to Christine Stanton, who's the director of the Council on Aging, and she said, we need a replacement bus. Our plan is to apply for the grant next year and submit it through capital for fiscal 27. So, and that is good timeline for her perspective. So I think we have a good plan, which is it'll be included as part of the next year's capital budget. But I just wanted to flag that.
Was it 80K?
Tonight.
How much was it? Was it
She
80?
got it, now she got, I don't know, no, hers was I think 90, but she got 70K in an earmark from Senator Timothy for this year. She got a new plan this year. And I think that was 90, that's as a bus, 87,000.
So the bus is like 120 grand. The grant would have been 97, because it's 85%, 15% for the.
And we asked her to put her on her capital last year and she didn't do it. She didn't do it again this year, and as you know, we only funded the one. So there's $60 million in capital costs sitting in the books. But if you added up everybody. So this year, because we prioritized for 2 years in a row, we put 2.5 million to the Cunningham last year, which wasn't gonna be enough. We took another 3 or 3.5 this year to put it to it, and kind of said to every other department, we'll take one, the most priority need, and usually they'll 5 or 6, you gotta go away. And that wasn't even in her top 5. So it wasn't even on our list. So as you said, we talked about it today, she's in pretty good shape fleet wise there now. So the one good thing is
the grant this next year, and
So we'll reapply for the grant for sure, and then we'll have her make sure she submits it as part of the capital process.
and Deborah and Mike were aware of that.
Yes.
Okay.
And Christine said she would speak to that tonight if needed.
that the only other one.
That's that's the other one.
You don't need to vote on any of this, unless you want to vote on any of these? Do you want to vote on any? So
Should we just vote on the should we vote on the consent agenda maybe, or just,
I don't think we need.
they're not gonna ask us, yeah.
So why don't I do this? I'm gonna make it easy. I'm gonna start reading them off. If you got an objection, say. So I'm gonna make a motion to support the following 2025 annual town meeting warrant articles. Number 1, here report of officers, and I'll read them all, and then someone can second, and then if you anticipate. Number 2, amend the fiscal year 2025 appropriations reserve fund, is that for 700,000?
That's the
700,000. Authorize the treasurer enter into compensating balance agreements. Article 4, capital budget appropriation. Article 5, audit appropriation. Article 6, collective bargaining wage set aside. Article 7, employee benefits appropriations. Article 8, chapter 61, position classifications and wage increases. Article 9, public safety appropriation. Article 10, general government appropriation. Article 11, boards and committees appropriation. Article 12, public works appropriation. Article 13, water enterprise fund appropriation. Article 14, sewer enterprise fund appropriation. Article 15, Stormwater Enterprise Fund appropriation, Article 16, appropriation for water systems improvements, Article 17, appropriation for sewer system improvements. Article 18, appropriation for stormwater system improvements, Article 19, Board of Health appropriation, Article 20, library appropriation, Article 21, cemetery appropriation. 22, Parks and Recreation appropriation, 23, consolidated facilities appropriation, 24, schools appropriation, 25, Little's Regional Technical School appropriation, 26, interest and maturing debt appropriation, 27, rescind unused debt authorizations, 28, stabilization fund appropriation, 29, establish and appropriate funds to an operating budget stabilization fund. This is the new funding for the schools. 30, establish a special education stabilization fund. 31, reserve fund appropriation. 32, authorize revolving fund expenditure limits. Article 33, PEG access enterprise fund appropriation. 34, CPA committee preservation of funds appropriation. 35, community preservation fund project recommendation. 36, authorize select board to accept abandoned planned or relocate easements.
Maybe that's a good place to stop at 36.
All right, so I'm gonna stop at 36. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Question, comments? All those in favor? So we're
Yeah.
saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to June 16th article, item 3, June 16th, 2025, and this is for the new members. This is not precedent that we have another town meeting in June, so this has to be one night because I don't know if we get a quorum 2 nights in a row. June 16, 2025, special town meeting list of warrant, potential warrant articles. You want to talk to this first?
Sure, so we have the East Milton overlay zoning district has been submitted by the planning board. And there's information on that I can distribute to the full board. Floodplain is a bookkeeping update where we have to update our floodplain zoning bylaw to match the federal FEMA maps and updates. So it's really out of our control. We have to do it for those homes to continue to be eligible for flood insurance. MBTA communities, that speaks for itself. I sent an email today about where that stands. The planning board submitted materials today for a 10% communities plan to HLC, seeking feedback and submit some questions related to questions they have as they work towards a 25% plan. They're meeting as we speak now. They're meeting Thursday night, so they're continuing to meet on this.
How long do we expect for some reply?
From HLC?
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
I'm not gonna, I try to keep my new role in my, so Senator Driscoll's gonna speak tonight. I expect that we should be before the secretary by the end of next week. My gut is, I don't wanna speak for him because I know him on TV. My gut is, I believe they know this is coming, they expected it. There are some questions in there. If there are now about 30 communities in the same boat as we are, and I can't even tell you how many bills there are between the House and the Senate dealing with, because we're one issue, there are issues everywhere, but if you notice, Middleborough settled, and they settled, and part of how they settled is they gave them credit of things that they had. We have approved 700 units since I came on this board 8 years ago. We're not getting credit, but there's some, because one of the issues we have in Milton is 2 things. The transit district, as you saw in the email today, talks about the only place you can use multi-use commercial is in that transit, which would be along the other street corridor, because Milton, unlike our neighbors south of us, Quincy, Randall, only half of us counts because Boston's exempt. So instead of a circle, we're a half of them. And the one thing I've learned in my short time there is this is not a one size fits all. So I think this next meeting will be the continuation of some negotiations. I will say that, at least for me, as a new representative being in the room, I found HLC, you were there at the second meeting. They're getting it from more directions than just us. It's like, it was one bill the other day that I voted with. There were like 38 people voted because they want to extend the deadline a year, and that each one grows more and more. It's not just partisan, it's bipartisan. So, and the key word that I picked up on from the governor the other day was he's using the word flexibility. So I'm here. You read me use it. I've used flexibility 20 times. So do I think 10 is going to be enough? I don't, but I think that this is a big step on the way. those of you in the room have heard me speak. My whole issue on the no is that when I came on this board 9 years ago, they were gonna shut down the trolley. And the MBTA promised us $500 million in repairs, completely overdo that line and replace it with brand new. That project was supposed to be finished 2 years ago. You know how much money's been equal all the money we just passed in the legislature? You know how much money's been assigned to that project? Zero. So if you're not gonna fix the trolley, you've got a parallel commuter rail with 3 stations within 0.37 miles of the town, Reedville, Fairmount, Overlap. If you notice, more people take in this town, particularly on the west side, use the commuter rail now than they do that. So let's focus on that. And I think that it's starting to kind of take hold. So this is a big step for us. So
And then the timing for the June meeting, so if the planning board meets on Thursday, is that when they're going to, do they have to put their final recommendations
No.
forward at that point? No, when do we go to, when do we go to press?
when we go, when I don't know what your
So,
date is.
so that's. If they don't meet again the following week, then yeah, Thursday is pretty much it.
Okay.
This warrant needs to go to print next week.
But this could be tweaked right at the, I think, you know, count.
Oh, I
right up
expect,
to-
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's gonna be a green sheet.
As we do it now.
As we do, like as we just talked about, I mean, I see this being in discussion right up potentially till that.
Okay, I was just wondering what was gonna, what our warrant deadline was.
Yeah, I mean, I think the select board will meet May 13th per our current schedule. And that's when this board needs to approve that warrant. And then we need to send it off to the printer the following day. It has to be in mailboxes 14 days before June 16th. That's June 2nd. So we're talking a pretty quick turnaround. So have everything, all our I's dotted and T's crossed to have that warrant ready. East Milton overlay floodplain are good to go. They're done. Warrant committee's already met to talk about them. So those are in good shape. That leaves MBTA communities as the big one. So, but I mean, I can describe the others.
Well, the alcohol on town property, I felt like we got good feedback from the Margaret Carroll's and that group about language that would be acceptable to kind of. Have we incorporated any of that in the?
So I think I've been looking for a conversation with this board as to what we want to take from that
Okay.
feedback. I can, if we meet again tomorrow night, I could probably have a draft circulated in front of everybody for tomorrow night,
I
just
think
to.
that'd be good to have a
It's part
draft.
of a legal thing. So I think, given that it's town property, to cover almost every point that was brought up to us would be, we could be restrictive enough that we require that anybody who takes a outdoor license in the town, that we require them to use someone who's licensed under the provisions of a caterer's license. Just to have the caterer's license, you have to have all those things, tips, versus Benzo or Richard Wells, who's going, because a lot of the one days we get now come in the name of a person.
Mhm.
Because they just do, I mean, like, they just, you know,
Yeah.
you wanted to have Porch Fest or whatever, so I mean, Milton Music Fest, we stopped putting we went to the caterer's license thing 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Just because of this. I think I mean, the reason that the Commonwealth created that statute was specifically for that, to really codify all the things that you would have to do if you were the owner of Navarre or Steel, you know, regular. I think that itself would be really the smart, I think that will protect us, that protects whoever it is wants to take the license. There are plenty of places in this region that have them. And that's the way they have to go, and it kind of makes it a lot, they have to notify the chief in writing, they have to have the safety plan, tips, all of that comes out of that statute.
so I'd be curious to know, because the two other recommendations, which you didn't mention for that, but maybe it is included in the caterer's licenses, having a separate area that's specific.
No, that wouldn't be,
for
that
alcohol.
would be something we'd have to do, you mean like a non-alcoholic?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, or just.
for our locations, it would be, I mean, think
It'd be
about
hard for-
Wharf Park, for example, we'd have a separate location where it's so small. And then
Right.
even for the deck,
Okay.
it's so small and no other entity has really looked to have anything else.
And then the
outside.
wristband, I thought was a good idea.
That's in the
I think-
caterer's license.
That's in the
thing,
caterer's
that's the
license.
caterer's
Okay, that was what those were two that I was interested
So
in.
aside from the caterer's license, we need the area designation.
If you
What's
have
up?
it, some places I'm not so sure you'd have it everywhere, but in places where it's applicable, I think we could put that.
Yeah, maybe it's like if we have a minimum size, like if, if something is, if it's like Hutchinson Field, it's pretty easy to,
These
Rope off
don't
the
apply
park.
to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hutchins, we do that, but
right,
this only applies to town.
The town,
It only
yeah.
applies to town. Hutchins is privately owned. Just a thought, I mean, I was looking through all the stuff, particularly Steve Keel's the one I paid, because he had Wakefield's, with it really kind of codified everything that's on, like, you know, what comes on cable.
Yeah, I mean, that's easier if it
I know it
already
is.
exists.
Yeah.
Nick, did the state move away from requiring minimum air, like? certain
Yeah,
areas?
that didn't work well with DCR when we tried to limit it to like these 100 square feet on the side.
Yeah,
It
I can
just-
see how that
In
would,
practice, it becomes very difficult
Yeah.
to maintain that type of thing,
right,
but
Are they-
we did have the tips and catering license and all that type of thing.
Are they already required to submit a site plan for,
Well, the site,
No,
not so much,
please.
because they're gonna tell you where they wanna rent, I mean, we don't like
Yeah.
if you rent the deck, you get that, I mean, it's just so, but like, you're
or
right,
just
I
have a
mean,
plan to set everything up and, you know, to just give a schematic,
I think.
you know, for more for safety purposes.
I think depending on like, let's say someone wanna come and rent this whole, this whole field, like, so the 350 was huge. Was huge,
Mhm.
I remember that, it was huge, it was in 2013, it was. But there was no liquor, cause the town didn't, but I'm with you, like, if someone wanted some of that size. I would think you'd have to do that.
So
have to have a separate area.
Yeah, I think that's something we could do on our own, I think we could, you know, depending,
Not be
we could look at all of, you know, it's a big difference between renting. You know, the back of the Mac
Right,
and wanting to
versus
rent
like, yeah,
Kelly Field or something like this for like for an all weekend tournament.
That makes
You know what?
Well, are we providing a list of what's available for rent and what isn't?
That's another place to
That came up-
go, the bylaw could
The
specify.
bylaw could specify
locations.
too, yeah.
Because it came up a bit at Parks the last month, is that someone wanted to rent the field for a barbecue showdown.
I can believe it.
And we've never rented
Rented it.
any of those fields for any sort of event. And so, you know, if we're gonna do liquor, if we're gonna open it up, seems like, you know,
Makes
bigger can
sense.
work.
You're talking non-sports? So you're talking, someone wanted it for non-sport, yeah,
Yeah,
non-sports.
yeah.
I mean, the bylaw now. I don't think the bylaw prohibits anybody from renting anything. This only deals with liquor. The park commissioners, you could, they.
Yeah, we were gonna be putting in.
You could
language
do it,
about
like, I mean, look. Nothing is beyond the imagination.
Yeah.
I was here I was police chief in 2016 when, who's the senator from Vermont?
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders called Glenn Pavlicek at 1 o'clock in the morning and said, we want to come here tomorrow. We want to rent your field house, your high school, your auditorium, everything. And we met here at 6 o'clock in the morning with their advanced team. And I don't even know how much money they paid for that. And that Tuesday night it was Monday night going on a Super Tuesday, 5,000 people came. And he flew in from Washington DC. And it's like, there was no liquor, but it's like, you never know, like, you could have a movie show, I mean,
Mhm.
you could have in the movie The Judge, which was filmed on School Street, in the summer, they rented the entire Golden School for 4 days. So this only deals with liquor, that type of stuff. The selectmen don't have it, it's all schools and parks, we don't have any, we just control liquor licenses, that's all, so. But that was my thought, and then why don't you look at that and then tweak it, if everyone's all right with that, the more I sat and listened, I'm like, which is the reason why. The whole 5 years ago, we were told, not by this legal council, none of the council, that we could not issue liquor license, the caterers licenses in Massachusetts. This was during the time before the Milton Club burned down. And he was wrong in his decision. And a year later, I said, I screwed that up, you can't. And so, it's the reason why the state passed it. They want to get away from, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones want to have, you know, they want to rent. I can't even think of a place now, you know, they want to rent Turner's Pond, the park one, have like a. So, just a thought.
Yeah,
That's the
I-
policeman part of it, just being.
Well, I think if there's state regulations already around the catering stuff,
Yeah.
like, let's not reinvent the wheel. And I think having a draft to look at tomorrow would be good.
We can post it together for that.
Okay. We're, now I'm lost.
So that was
We
a
were
lot
still
of
on-
fun. So, we had talked briefly about, at our prior meeting. Or about the 5th one on the list, which is, so the 4th one on the list, which is a reserve fund, is if the schools feel like they're gonna need additional funding. We have $300,000 free cash unappropriated at this time intentionally in case this comes up. They seem to be optimistic that the $700,000 will be enough.
For this fiscal year.
This is for this fiscal year, assuming that the supplemental budget through the House, Senate and Governor comes through at the numbers they expect. But it's on there as a placeholder. It's for the $300,000 appropriation as needed. Can always be pulled off or rescinded if necessary, and at the end of the day, if it goes to the reserve fund, and we don't use it, it closes back out to free cash. If we never appropriate it as free cash, it just closes back out to free cash. So either way, the end result is kind of the same. If it's not spent or it's not appropriated, it goes back to where it started from at the end of the fiscal year.
So. Part of what the schools have stated that got them, John, you're agree, you know, what got them in such trouble is. Special ed, and I don't know, it was also, but special ed transportation, so the House Ways and Means budget went really far to fund, to increase the student pupil rate from what, 70 to 150
For next year.
for next year, but the goal was to keep it in perpetuity, to never go back. And the other thing was to fund sped at 75% on every student, which is a big.
What do we have right now?
50. No, well, it differs, some like. So, and the only thing that I think you need to have conversation with the schools about is like making sure the kids are out of district, they're accredited schools, because if a kid goes out of district and the school's accredited, you can't use circuit breaker reimbursement money to cover that, puts the whole thing on us. And that, well, we can't afford, I mean, you all know it, campaigned, there's no more money, like we can't get in a hole like this again, we just can't do it, and. I mean, I know Superintendent Fairland very well, and he knows the system intimately, so our hope is that this, we're not sitting here a year from now. Having the same discussion. So.
So we'll have that on there. We'll just keep it on there until it needs to come off or if we get good news, we get good news.
The other thing too is that the House is the Speaker has created a task force, through the Inspector General's office. They have from now until October to come back with a report as to what is making this happen. Because it's the number one thing you hear about, you know, it's like chapter 70, it's all there. Because that, even though we're at where we're at, most of the town side departments got not like minimal, even with 9.5, they didn't get a lot. Are we gonna hire a town planner with this or no? Does that have to stay vacant?
We have some people still applying, so we have some interviews to do and then
Okay.
repost as necessary. All right, so the next article on the list is, this is a special act, the statute that can be accepted that allows us to not issue permits to people who may not have been up to date on their municipal property taxes or other charges. It's so the only thing that we can really, if we want to put this into effect, we have to take this state law as written. What we can toggle and change is the amount of time that somebody is delinquent before this would go into effect. It's typically 12 months, which means if you don't pay your property taxes for a year, we will choose not to issue a building permit after that point. And the treasurer would notify the departments of people who are delinquent up to a year. They can over a year, yeah, and then they can enter into a payment plan if they want to. Like they have those options as we would normally. So that's pretty straightforward bylaw in terms of the mechanics of it. If this board is interested in putting it forward, it's not extremely time sensitive that if we wanted to pull stuff off of this meeting, it certainly could wait until a future town meeting because it's not time sensitive in any way.
I mean, if it's not time sensitive and we're trying to do this in one night and MBTA communities is on the agenda. I feel like-
Yeah, perhaps, maybe.
But on the
maybe we
list,
could wait.
but not-
Yeah.
Is it a huge problem that we're having,
We
or
have
is it just something
Some
that?
tax title properties that the treasurer is diligently
Okay.
working towards. It's
Yeah.
just more for going forward. We just want another tool in the
Yep.
toolbox to be able to use against property owners who choose not to pay their taxes.
Mhm.
And again, we're collecting heavy interest on them at the same time,
Yeah.
You
so.
wanna move it back to
Beneficial.
tonight, we'll put on the consent agenda. You can have a-
Should have had on the next one is time sensitive, however, so property tax exemptions related to veterans and the elderly. I'm working on a list, so at the end of 2024, the legislature approved a new law that created some new exemptions for veterans. And in looking at that act, we noticed that we haven't adopted a couple of things related to the elderly. So there are primarily two things. The first is to peg these exemptions to inflation. So every year, these exemptions would increase at the rate of CPI that the Department of Revenue announces. So if right now, the senior exemption, if you're 70 or older and meet certain income requirements, is $500. It's been $500 for who knows how long. In Milton, if we accept one of these exceptions, it will increase from now on with CPI annually. So it might be, $520 some year if it goes up. So it'll increase over year, and you can apply that to the veterans ones as well. The other one is more expensive, and I don't have numbers on it yet, so I can present those tomorrow if we meet again tomorrow. But I just wanted to flag those, and you have to have them in effect for fiscal 26, they need to be accepted before June 30th. So this would be time sensitive. I think in the light of the override, it would make sense to at least do the CPI one if we can get something moving, and then maybe revisit on the others. But I'll put something together for everybody to look at ahead of tomorrow. We could take it up next week if necessary, but I'll circle back on that. And then the taxation fund one is not as time sensitive, and we haven't really put that together. So I'll if I can do something with it ahead of the 13th, I will. That's a check off on the property tax bill to put it into a fund. A new committee would have to be set up to distribute those monies to people in accordance to some rules or regs that they set out. Needham and a few other communities have something already set up like that. So we're looking to them for some examples of how they make out, how they administer it. So more to follow them there, but at least to help put something together on the tax exemptions.
Okay, good.
Yeah, good.
Okay, Item 4. Bills to award for general contract for Cunningham School, 34th floor renovation plan. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sent out an email about this from Paul Callis from Lyro Hill, who is our owner's project manager. So Paul and his team represent the town on this between the designer and the contractor. Our bids came in last week. Good news, all the bids were below budget. A couple of them were clustered around $2.4 to $2.6 million. The low bidder was a company called Venemsha Solutions. The owner's project manager recommends that the town not award it for reasons stipulated in the letter that he wrote that I distributed to the board. Primarily speaking to their responsibility in terms of comparable projects completed, that there weren't many comparable projects at all completed in terms of public projects that were of this nature in terms of a project that had to be completed in a very tight time frame while school is closed before school reopens. They did do reference checks, and the recommendation right now is for the town to award it to BC Construction, which is the second bidder, who, their paperwork is complete. And they were determined to be responsible based on their similar projects that they submitted and their reference checks. So recommendation right now is for a notice of award to BC Construction for the project at Cunningham. And right now we're looking at about $2.6 million for the general contract. The soft costs for the Arrow Street and the OPM are $300,000 each. So that's about $3.2 million overall, with about $100,000 for moving and storage of library materials. And then the rest is really contingency. We have a $5.5 million appropriate. So this is a project that came in below expected in terms of our conservative budget estimates. And we're hoping to start potentially as soon as the third week of June when we have that special town meeting.
We'll just make the motion without the money amount.
Yeah, notice of BC Construction, that's fine. For the kind
We'll
of
make a
project.
motion.
I'll move to approve the notice of award to BC Construction for the Cunningham School 3rd and 4th floor renovation
Motion by
project.
Mr. Zoll.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cohen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, I'll do this one quick. 1-day licenses 5. I'm gonna make this as a motion. There's a motion for 1-day liquor licenses for Debbie Marion on behalf of MMB Wakefield Arboretum 1465 Brush Hill Road on Saturday, May 31st, 2025 from 1 to 4. The Wakefield Spring Beer and Music Member Drive. Number 2, Kathleen Pendleton on behalf of Milton Academy, 170 Center Street. Number 1, class reunion, June 13th, 2025, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And number 2, class reunion, June 14th, 2025, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There'll be a lot more coming from Milton Academy. It's June. They usually do about 13 every June. Number 6, discussion approval, class 2 deal license from Perry Automotive LLC, DBA S&E Automotive located at 131 Brook Road, Milton, Mass. This is a small, yeah, it was a gas station, it's only called Chris's Auto, who is, like, what I refer to as a concierge license, you wanna,
Sure, so it's essentially a used car dealer that the mechanics will sometimes request to have. They just, so everyone understands, and from a process perspective, this is not allowed use under our zoning bylaw. So they had to go to the Board of Appeals first, so they had a hearing with the Board of Appeals, and butters notifications were sent out. The applicant is going to not change anything about the site plan and about the building. He'll do all of his business within his existing structure. And he's going to dedicate 2 of the existing parking spots for vehicles that are available for sale. Otherwise, the business will continue unchanged. In terms of the requirements that he has to meet for the select board's approval, we have to verify that the location is a valid location, which is now with the Board of Appeals approval. He has to have a bond of $25,000, which he has posted and provided us copies of. And the language in the statute is that he's a proper person. So we've had him submit certifications of tax compliance. The premises have been inspected by police and fire. So right now, we don't see any reason not to issue the Class 2 dealer license to Jamal Denny and S&E Automotive.
have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Class 2 dealer license for Imperium Automotive LLC DBA S&E Automotive located at 131 Brook Road, Milton, Mass. On the condition that the applicant operate in accordance with the decision approved by the Board of Appeals dated February 10th, 2025.
Motion made by Mr. Zoll, second.
I will second.
Second by Mr. Daly. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous, okay. Number 7, discussion approval of livery license application. I remember there used to be 13 or 15, one cab license in Milton. So we have an application from Jose Roman. What's his,
We'll be operating out of 2 Granite Ave.
I have a motion to approve. This is a renewal.
No, it's a new one.
On the room. The motion to approve a livery license application from Mr. Jose Roman, 2 Granite Avenue, Milton.
I'll second.
I made the motion.
All right, there you go.
You made the motion, right?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Mr. Milano.
Where for what?
Evaluation, I got it.
Do
We
we want
voting on that tonight? Are we voting?
There's no evaluation, but it's done.
So
I just threw it on here so we could talk about it, but I
Yeah,
know where we're at.
let's, maybe we should make this as an agenda item for our regular
Tuesday,
meeting
okay.
on Tuesday,
All right.
and then everybody who
Okay.
needs to get a evaluation and can do that.
And then I just do want to say, I think we should come up with a game plan moving forward, because we had this issue last year, we had the issue when you came on the board, it was
Yeah.
a little funky where you're expected to evaluate me through June 30th, and 2 of you just got here.
Yeah.
So, it's a little unfair to put it on you.
And today's May 5th.
Yeah.
And today's May 5th.
How did that get in your contract?
You, or, you're the only one left, so what you and your colleagues requested, I don't know, it might have been in Mike's, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe it makes sense to do it on a calendar year basis.
Something like
or,
that would,
You know,
could be reasonable.
why don't we put that on the agenda too?
Okay.
Because I think you're right, it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to folks like, John has to do his from when he started, and then Winston and Megan have, tonight.
Yeah, you know.
Right,
Why
right.
don't we leave you guys out of it?
Not to,
Yeah.
and not to mention the fact that it's a July 1st to June 30th, and here we are, May 5th.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
this is-
like,
I
I'll
wrote,
talk
I've already
about
written
that.
it, so.
Huh?
it's-
you know?
Yeah,
You want to go to Kyle, right?
Yes,
Okay.
when it's ready.
Okay. Now. I'm gonna say it for you. Have you talked to
Thank
us
you.
tonight?
I just wanted to note, Chris McGrath from Milton DPW is retiring this week, 40-year employee, with the town. So, he was in the garage store mechanic, which means we're gonna have a little bit of trouble, I'm sure, replacing and finding a mechanic. If anybody knows a mechanic looking to come work for the town and get a good pensionable, good benefits, we're gonna be starting to post that position. So I'll mention that on the 13th. I just want to flag it.
do we do anything to commemorate somebody 40 years of service?
The department will.
Okay.
We'll do some- on their way out.
Tomorrow night, I'm gonna mention Ben. So Richard Ben Casey, who lived on Thatcher Street, who did 41 years. With the town, his father did 40 years, and his wife, who was, I think, the first female on the DPW. She died of breast cancer. 5 years ago at age 48, I think. He died yesterday, so I might make mention of him, tomorrow night. I don't want to do it tonight, too much going on tonight, so
Yeah.
I'll wait till tomorrow. I don't have anything. Anybody? Future agenda? Want an agenda? Mr. Zoll, anyone?
Well, so I'm assuming we're gonna have MBTA communities on the agenda for next week. Yes,
If we meet by then, or do you want to?
no, I mean on the 13th, where
Are we
our-
meeting next week? Are we meeting next Tuesday?
That's our regular meeting date, as long as everybody can make it. Right, okay.
Next
We
Tuesday.
should, because there's, with the special town meeting, we should.
Okay,
get
all right.
together.
Need a reorg. We're gonna do that next Tuesday, right?
And I'll distribute, for everybody, the list of other committees that we appoint select board members to. And if everybody could just let me or Lynn know kind of what you're interested in, and then we can just prepare something for that night to try to, have the conversation move. So there's a bunch of committees that we appoint members onto. In addition, just to the finance committee and policy committee that are under the select board. So we can have that on the agenda as well.
Okay,
Why don't you put who's on what now, so that,
Yeah, I can do
oh,
that.
that's so that they know who's in.
and the select board appointees,
July 1st.
yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, it would be a July 1st appointment, basically.
We can start reappointing.
You can start out,
whenever,
but it's effective July 1st.
But we can, probably at the June meetings, target
Okay.
those for, reappointments.
And I think it would be good to put on our schedule for Tuesday, the idea of a retreat for June. We-
June?
Or July or August, preferably over a weekend.
Well, shoot me now.
What did you say, a what?
Oh, like a retreat.
Oh,
He's gonna be at his house, he's gonna have it at his house.
You're willing to welcome the public too.
Yeah. But the dog actually that would be the big problem.
Yours and mine both. All right, motion adjourned?
No, we don't adjourn, do we?
Oh, yeah. Do we even have to? We don't do anything right now. We don't.
It's actually adjourned, don't we?
No, because we don't.
Yeah,
We're gonna go
We're
to
supposed to
town
be in
meeting?
session.
I mean, hold on, let me read this. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, it does say adjourn.
You can tell meeting, the subject's open.
But if we don't adjourn, then Lynn should be keeping minutes for the rest of.
Oh, yeah, that-
Yeah.
All
If we
right,
don't adjourn, can we vote, can we take votes for the record of town meeting? We good? Sure.
okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. There will never be as.
Three, two, one.